right, everyone. Welcome to Strictly Rangers. I am Jacob Brown, joined here with my dad. We're going to talk about the New York Rangers, and we would love to come on here with some better news, but it's been a bit of a struggle bunny for the Rangers here over the last few weeks. Not necessarily in the way that they've played. I think they've played pretty well, relatively. They're just not getting wins on the scorecard, and that's what happens with these young teams. So I know, Dad, you've been waiting to just slam me for being optimistic about one of my teams. I'm not always playing devil's advocate, but, Rangers are young. They're not playing too well. What are your thoughts over the last few games?
Well, just give me a moment to revel in the I told you so's. Number one, I told you that young teams need to learn how to win. And I also told you that older teams know how to win. So when you're in a division with the Washingtons and the Bostons and even the Islanders, for that matter, and to a lesser extent the Flyers, but we haven't faced them yet, and they're kind of new and figuring out how to win. But those older teams, and David Quinn kind of said it. He made a comment this week that I thought was really quite revealing, less tactful than you might expect, at least from a public perspective. He said basically, they just had more men than us. I thought that was a very interesting perspective, and he's 100% right. Boston is a team of men. It's really that simple. They're grown men. They're experienced. They've gone through the gauntlet, played really meaningful games for a long time. And that has a way of seeping into a game in critical moments. When things have to be executed, when you've been there and done that before, you know what it takes. And very few Rangers on this team that have, and that have been through that. So now that said, this is a simple case where the Rangers' offense has all but disappeared. There's no one contributing outside of Panarin for the most part. Zibanejad looks woefully lost. Hopefully he's getting his legs back from the COVID thing, but he's making he's passing when he should shoot. He's shooting when he should pass. He's not getting to open spaces. His chances are getting snuffed out. So it's a big hole right there. But I think Steve Valiquette brought up a good point as well in the interim. He said, there's a lot of chatter on social media about how the Rangers need to get tougher and so forth. And I thought he made a good point, which is that at this stage of the development of this team, you don't necessarily need to go out and get 3 or 4 guys that can be that. You get that when you're closer. I thought that was a decent point, but it's a trade-off. Do you want to keep figuring? It is why I kind of agree and don't agree with Valiquette. The Rangers kind of have an understanding of who their elite players are going to be for the next 5 or 6 years, so they know what that group looks like. Now it's a question of making hard decisions around guys like Howden. Is Lemieux part of that? This guy Rooney has been a bit of a revelation, but he's, is he part of it? Blackwell is smallish, so he's not that guy by any stretch. So when do you pull the trigger on that stuff, right? Because you're probably a year away from Lafreniere and Kakko and Hedl and maybe even Kravtsov being big pieces of this thing. The Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, and maybe Buchnevich should be part of it. So you need your bottom 6. You need a little bit more grit, and I've been saying it for the longest time. So it's a question of when you pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just going to hold on to what they have right now. I don't think there's, like Valiquette said, you do it when you're closer. I think the Rangers are fairly conservative with the way that they run their team and who they trade and who they don't. So I think they're going to just kind of hold on to what they have. I forget who ranked this, but the Rangers have the second best prospect system in the league. So I think they're honestly going to wait for some of those guys to come up. Kravtsov is 6'3". You get that size, that grit, that scoring ability. If he can come over and do well, you have Braden Schneider, who seems like a legitimate guy. But, the factor still remains that they need age, they need experience at the same time. And, we've been floating around the idea, do you trade Buchnevich? Maybe you don't now because he is experienced somewhat, or maybe you flip Buchnevich to get an even more experienced guy. But that's definitely lacking for the Rangers for sure. But really at the bottom line, and I think this is what happens to most fan bases and most teams, you tend to overreact when you get into stretches like this. The Rangers have a lot of one-goal losses. This is not like the Rangers are losing 6-2 and 5-1 and 4-1. Have they been shut out twice? Yes, but they always had good chances in those games. There were always close games. They played well, and there were a lot of other parts of the game that they did play well. So, I'm not overreacting here. They're still playing well as a system, as a team, much better than they were when we were doing the first few weeks of the season, talking about that, about how we couldn't even complete passes. We weren't doing the basic things. At least the Rangers have progressed past that level to me. But playoffs, all that, definitely a bit of a ways off from that destination. So, but one bright spot that I've seen for sure is Julien Gauthier. We've been on him since before the season in the off-season pods about how much we like him. He's had a few games where he's done some things that are just noticeable, where you're just like, wow. And so, honestly, sometimes you notice him more than you notice Lafreniere or notice Kakko. Even more so than Zibanejad sometimes too. So Gautier's been playing really well. So again, I think let's wait a few weeks before we just start saying, oh, the Rangers don't have enough. They're not experienced. They don't have this. They don't have that. They're still pretty close losses. They're still playing well. Let's just wait it out a little bit.
Well, here's the reality. Their last three losses after a big win against Washington, their last three losses have been 2-0 in 2-0 in regulation, 3-2 in overtime, and 1-0 in regulation. So, Boston came in on an 8-game point streak, 7-0-1. They yielded 3 regulation time goals to what can be a pretty potent offense. I think recently they scored 6 against Philly. So one thing that the Rangers have this year that they haven't had in the past is a real defensive structure. I don't always agree with Larry Brooks, but he brought up a very good point about how Lindy Ruff was kind of incapable. You got to remember, Ruff was a holdover from the Vigneault years,
right?
And the Rangers haven't had a defensive structure in a very long time. And this Martin guy has come in, and let's face it, they are capable of locking down teams defensively. They're taking the body more. So really, again,
and this is with a third pair where you've had Hayek and Boteto and Smith.
Yeah, no doubt. So realistically speaking, the fact of the matter is that what they lack right now is that crunch time producer, if you will, the guys that step up when in those critical moments during the game and change the course of a game and then overall a season. I think a big piece of it is that it's like they're playing without Zibanejad right now.
Pretty much, yeah.
So he's not contributing. I think he has 2 points in his last 11 games. That's total. He's not creating chances for himself or for others with any kind of regularity. I think Vucinovic has to go because at the end of the day, you've got to presume that Kakko and Kraftstov, at the very least, have better pedigrees than him. And if you're 2 or 3 years away from being real, you don't need a guy like Vucinovic, who's going to be kind of a mid-tier guy and certainly not of the elite skill level that you need on a first line. So I don't know who that first line guy winds up being, whether it's Kakko or Kraftstov or maybe even Gauthier. And you're right about Gauthier. He's been noticeable. I don't see what Quinn sees in practice and in games, and what led to a 5-game benching or whatever you want to call it.
I think that's honestly, now that I think it's just Quinn knowing that Gauthier is good and he just wants to put a pressure up under him. I think if we see it, then he sees it too. So he probably maybe there were little parts of his game where maybe in practice we don't see that stuff. So maybe he wasn't working on the little things, and Quinn was just like, go do that and then come back.
Yeah, I think 5 games was
gratuitous.
It was excessive, entirely excessive when you're plugging in other guys that aren't necessarily, it's not like Gauthier was fighting it out with another, first round pick. He was fighting for a roster spot with, Rooney, who again has been kind of a revelation. Blackwell, who played well before his injury as well. Di Giuseppe, they throw all those guys in that mix of sort of, second tier, maybe not the future type players. And that's who Gauthier was sitting behind. And that I didn't understand. But, the Rooneys of the world, he's not a beast by any stretch. But if you're over 200 pounds, and he is, and he's got an edge to him, what the hell? He's probably not we've said this for a long time. The Rangers have what's right now a good problem to have, but will develop into just a problem, which is a lot of skill guys that, yes, they have size, but they don't have that extra gear when it comes to physicality, or at least not yet. I don't. Kravtsov's a big dude, but I don't think he's. What they need. What they need are Canadians, quite frankly, or Americans who play a different style of hockey. Grew up on the 200 foot rink that didn't look like the Atlantic Ocean. You play in Europe, you skate around for a long time. It's less physical. You got a lot of time to make decisions with the puck. They need North Americans, the Braden Schneiders of the world, to come forward. The Cooley kid, the number 60 something, the 60 overall pick.
I mean, Morgan Barron too, 6'4".
Morgan Barron, Robertson,
Yeah.
That's what they need. They need guys that are accustomed to a physical, small space game that make the other team, a little bit nervous to carry the puck through the central zone, through center ice, that understand when they go in the corners they're going to get hit, and over time, if those guys are on your roster, people are not lining up the Kakos and the Heedles and the what have you, because even though they're big dudes, they're all 6 something, 200 pounds. They know that the rest of the league knows they're not physical dudes.
Yeah.
But if there's nobody to pay that back, like you're using Boston, for example, like if Boston knows that there's not enough guys on the opposition team that are going to take a run at Bergeron or Marchand.
Well, I will say, I mean, during that game, I mean, Trouba ran over. I was at work, so I saw it on my phone. He ran over somebody. Yeah, it was a tiny screen. Who did he run over? Was it big?
Trouba's in full on pissed off mode, and I love it. I mean,
and Lemieux too.
Yeah, Lemieux's there. Miller. I'd like to see Miller line somebody up. Miller tends to get to the puck and use his stick a lot, and he has the ability to physically manhandle people during puck battles. Every once in a while, I want to see his shoulder in someone's sternum. I want to see somebody basically walk away from a hit from Miller and go, I don't want to be near that dude anymore. He can contribute to that, but as good as a week with 3 losses it can be, I guess this was it, right? Because again, over 3 full games plus overtime, they yielded a total of 6 goals, one of which was an overtime goal. So 5 regulation goals in 3 games given up. And getting back to the gorilla in the room, if Zibanejad is on his game. Remember, Panarin missed a full game and much of the other game. So that's 2/3. That's 100% of your leading scorers from last year that did not contribute for the last game and a half. And in Zibanejad's case, for the season, really. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, fuck. Even Kreider. He has 4 goals. That's it. Not even an assist. I mean, that's all he's done, and he's a -5, which we don't care about really anymore. But I mean, 4 goals in 13 games, no assists at all.
Well, it's another thing that Larry Brooks said, which I thought was interesting. It was just a little aside, and he goes, it's something along the lines of, I didn't know that Kreider was a shoot and scoot guy, meaning. Less physical, right? Somebody who just skates really fast around the ice.
Well, who's been saying that for like 7 years?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's Kreider did. It wasn't until literally the end of the game where he laid out McAvoy. Like he absolutely laid that ass out, and that guy annoys the shit out of me. But It was just McAvoy had the puck behind, below the goal line. He was trying to get rid of it. Kreider literally destroyed him, and McAvoy shot the puck over the glass into the for a penalty. And now, unfortunately, the Rangers couldn't get the puck away from that big defenseman for like 30 goddamn seconds. I wanted to jump through the screen. But that's what happens when you pressure the puck with big physical guys. Kreider has to, in the same article, essentially, Larry Brooks said, or a different one, he said, Kreider is acting like the captain. Blah, blah, blah. That's great. It's great. Give nice speeches and be the nice motivational guy. But go out there and fuck someone up on like your first shift. You're a big dude. Very few people in this league want to fuck with Chris Kreider. That's just the reality. He's got to have that more as part of his game. He can't be skate a little wild, dump in the puck, and try to outskate everybody. Line someone up and make them aware that he's on the ice.
Yeah,
and again, I've been saying that for a decade, so it's like beating my head against the wall.
Yeah, or he comes down the wing and he just shoots a little floater up to the goalie, and that's it. He doesn't drive the puck to go to score a goal ever anymore. Like, at least he used to kind of do that. Now he just comes in on the wing and he just shoots it or he dumps it in, like you said. So it's pretty frustrating, especially with the money he's being paid. This is when you're like, okay, Chris, like, this is when you're supposed to step up. We gave you your 7 years. We negotiated this contract. We could have traded you, let you go, and you might become our captain. You got to step up here. So that's the big thing for Kreider. And
it's not just offensive production. We'd love to see that come in. The fact is that his center is AWOL. Buchnevich just fell off the face of the earth as well. So he's not on exactly. He's not exactly on the line that was lighting up the scoreboard like last year. That's just the reality. So that's hurting him. But he's got to be the engine, that he can be from a physical perspective. Right now, it's not there. I mean, candidly, Kevin Rooney is more noticeable from a physical perspective in about 5 games than Kreider has been for the past decade.
Well, I was going to mention Rooney too. The Hurricanes just made a trade to get Alex Galchenyuk and Cedric Paquette. Cedric Paquette reminds me of Rooney. Rooney's even 2 inches bigger. What does Paquette do? He doesn't really produce offensively. I always thought he did because, you hear his name all the time when you watch those Lightning games on those runs. And I'm texting with Adam yesterday and Steve talking about the trade, and they're like, this guy, he doesn't even need to score. He will come up. He's one of those guys on the score sheet. You don't see him. He just does all the little things. He's perfect to add, especially to a team like Carolina who needs that grit piece, that bottom 6 guy that's just going to mount that line and be that steady guy. Maybe Rooney can be a Cedric Paquette because he's just as physical. Paquette's a really gritty guy. And again, Paquette, he doesn't score a lot. He gets like 20 points a year, maybe 30. So Rooney could be that guy.
Yeah. The reality is this. Again, the Rangers have like enough guys for the top 9. So Rooney has to be a 4th line guy. That said, Howden, Lemieux, Gauthier.
You got to decide.
You got to make a choice, right? Like, I don't think you give up on Lemieux by any stretch.
I think you do because to me, you got to fit in Barron. You have to fit in Kravtsov, maybe even Rooney. I think Lemieux. I mean, it's great. He gets into fights every once in a while. That's great, but he doesn't do much else. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, he's not.
I don't know. He's a much more present contributor this year than he was last year. He's more physical. He's carrying the puck a little bit more.
He does carry the puck, yeah.
I think you're aware of him being on the ice. I think it's the fact that Howden plays center complicates things. I don't know if Rooney can play center. And candidly, I wouldn't talk about Rooney as the future by any stretch. But at some point, when you think about the fact that let's do the math again, right? You know for a fact that Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, Kakko, Lafreniere, those 5 guys, Hedel, 6, are part of that's probably your top 6 in some fashion after this year. Now, I didn't include Buchnevich or Strome in that, right?
Yeah, because they'll probably be gone eventually, yeah.
Well, right. So that's your top 6. So I think you double down on Gauthier, no doubt about it. And then you've got a lot of spots open, quite frankly. Di Giuseppe is another like big engine type of guy. Rooney, Blackwell, forget about.
Well, honestly, look, I like Howden. I've seen the speed factor a few times. Like, we were on the phone together the other night, and I was like, wow, like he actually put some speed in. He drove with the puck. He has 1 point.
He does everything that he does well. He does well 100 feet away from the net. He's never in and around the net. And and on the rare instances when he is, he can't get a shot. He doesn't have any touch around the net. So, like, I think he's one of those guys that at 6'3", 200 and with some wheels could dominate at the lower levels, which he clearly did. But when essentially everybody's kind of just as fast as you and kind of just as big, the rest of his game is not showing. Like, at this point, I mean, can you remember the last time that Howden drove to the net in any meaningful way, like Gauthier did at least 2 or 3 times in the last couple of games?
No, I mean, he doesn't do anything at all.
Right. I mean, Gauthier is a big dude, and he realized he's a big dude. And that's what Quinn wanted him to realize. Hey, go do big dude stuff. Howden is, it's I don't know. He just there's going to be a lot of transition to this team over the next year, I would imagine, and I think you're going to see the Howdens, Stromes, Buchnevich gone. Strome, can't be a top 6 guy when you've got Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Capo, Lafreniere, and Hedl. And I didn't even mention Kraftstoff, right?
Right.
So there's 7 for the top 9 that you probably want to double down on. And I don't know if Strome, Buchnevich are third line kind of guys.
Yeah, no. The reason I'm looking down for YouTube watchers was just on the Ranger roster. I was about to look at Igor's stats. For some reason, he's not on the roster, so I was looking if he was injured. He's not. It's probably just a glitch on the website. But
no, I guarantee you what it is. They did one of those things where they sent him down for the salary cap because he's very expensive. They've already done it to Kakko a couple of times, sent him down technically on off days or to the tax, not even to the taxi squad. I think they sent him. Maybe it's to the taxi squad or the AHL, whichever it is.
Oh, it is. Yeah, no, assigned to the taxi squad on Saturday.
Yeah, because they only get a fraction of their actual salary. So it's a way for these teams to. It's kind of like what the Yankees do with all the relief pitchers, but they do it for different reasons. But it's actually a money-saving mechanism. So it tells you how much these teams are struggling without fans.
No, I mean, well, it's funny you mentioned that. The Rangers are getting some fans back at least. I think it's 10% of I think if you're at 10% capacity for what is the capacity at Madison Square Garden, like 18,000? So it's probably like 1,800 fans.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's like nothing, but at least there's some noise there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could. We could say some stuff, but we're not going to. So,
I'll tell you after the pod what I wanted to say.
Yeah. But no, Igor is. I mean, for all the crap we gave him to start the year, 922 save percentage, 2.16 goals against, he's right back to where he was last year.
Yeah, he looked great, and Gorgiev picked the wrong time to get popped in the face. Because if there was ever a chance for him to establish himself.
All right, so if you're wondering why we both have different clothes on and why it's dark in our rooms now, it's because the last time we did the pod, my computer went kaput in the middle of our sentence, and now we got to start fresh. And I was honestly debating if we should even continue doing this podcast because since we recorded before the Devil game a few days ago, all hell broke loose, and it looks like the Rangers season is just about over already, a quarter way through. I don't mean to be a doomsday or anything like that, but you just got to be logical. Trouba's out 4 to 6 weeks. Hedl's already out. The team can't score. We lost to the Devils, and they hadn't played for 2 weeks. It's over.
It is funny because as we were preparing to get back into this conversation, we were talking about how there's positive signs to take from the previous week. and playing tough teams well, and 1-goal losses and what have you, and and then the Devil game happens, and if it's in the middle of a run where you've won 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 3, or you're doing reasonably well, then you say, okay, it's a night off, right? They weren't up for the game. The Devils were psyched and had their wheels. But the Rangers have been playing tough teams well, and then to show up and, well, I should say not show up in that first period. They got out solely because of Shesterkin with a 0-0 tie, and then as seems to have happened with the Rangers this year, the wheels start falling off like really rapidly. They give up wacky goals that they never score. Like the Rangers never get weird tip-in goals. They never hit somebody and winds up in the net. Like last night, let's face it, the Butcher goal against the Devils. He throws it towards the net, it hits off Trouba, goes in the net. The third goal deflected off of the Ranger at the point, hit that stick, then hit the Devil stick, and then like flooded over Shesterkin. Like the Rangers just don't get those goals. And Quinn said it in an interview. He's like, that's where goals are scored, and we all know this. It's where goals are scored in the NHL. It's not on the first chance. Because let's face it, all these goalies are big. The equipment is big. You have a very small window to put a puck if you have to beat them clean. So it's on those second effort. And the Rangers right now don't have enough second effort guys. It's really that simple. Kreider's a big dude. He's never there for a rebound. There was a point last night where Strome and Kakko were cycling down low, and it was a great shift. And I'm like, wow, this is really great to watch. I'm thinking, where the fuck is the third forward? And Lafreniere was up by the point. I'm thinking, did you take a break? Are you getting a drink? Like, why are you not in the fucking slot? Like, if you got two guys down low behind the goal line, they need a third option, because the defense will let you pass behind the net all goddamn day.
Right.
But there's nobody going to the dirty areas. There's nobody. It's just nobody. And then of course Trouba, right? Apparently every time as Ranger fans we're going to hear the words upper body injury, it's going to be the equivalent to like a death sentence, right? Or I mean, like Hedel, upper body injury, 4 to 6 weeks. Like it sounds so innocuous, but it seems that when it happens, it's like they need a body transplant. So I don't know. I think the wheels were off earlier before this game. Now that not just the wheels are off, they took the axles off the bus. There's no steering wheel. It's literally just went over a cliff. I don't know if it's too early to talk about the whispers about is Quinn the guy. I don't know. I feel it's kind of early.
I wouldn't. Again, I'm not going to be like that. I mean, what do you expect at the end of the day? I mean, I overhype the team because I don't have the experience that you do watching the Rangers suffer for most of your viewing time with the Rangers, and it's just a young group. He can't control Lafreniere not coming in and being what everyone said he was going to be, which is rookie of the year. He can't control Zibanejad not doing anything. He can't control Kakko not being able to score a goal. He can't control all these outside factors. He can control effort level, which goes into last night in that first period. The equivalent to, if you weren't on skates, it was like they were jogging out there. I mean, there no sprinting. There was no speed. They went back to early season form where they couldn't complete passes. It was all dump and chase. I don't know. I'm not going to go far with the Quinn thing, but there's just nothing to look forward to now. I mean, the rest of the season is just going to be like, okay, we're going to look at individual players, see how they progress. And, it's just the rebuild process. I think what they got to do now, honestly, is call up Braden Schneider. He's in the AHL. He's not in college. He's not overseas. He's not in Canada in the WHL. He's already under contract in the AHL. Try and get him over here, because if Trouba's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, who are you going to put in? Jack Johnson for 6 weeks?
I hope so.
Or Boteto? I mean, come on.
I hope so. I hope they bring up Jack Johnson. It'd be good to see him again.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Lumbering around the ice. It'd be, why? It'd be good to be like reminiscent for me of like watching 78 hockey, where The guys looked like they were dragging a piano behind them, and it was, everybody looked catatonic. I don't know. It's easy to jump off the cliff with this team. It's frustrating to watch. We did start off this pod talking about the positives, which is young team playing hard against really the cream of the crop competition, losing a bunch of games by 1 goal. They're not getting blown out. It's just this kind of avalanche of coincidental shit. No puck luck. Your stars aren't contributing. Your rookies can't find the net. Your young players can't find the net. It's just a weird, like, combination of everything that could go wrong is going wrong at critical moments, and good things are happening for the competition. Maybe they grow from this. Maybe this is exactly what they needed. I'm gonna throw another "I told you so" out there. I saw this coming. They're too young. They've accomplished nothing. They've accomplished nothing as a team and nothing as individuals. Let's face it here, right? We're not talking about a hodgepodge of a bunch of successful guys in other franchises. These are all guys that have never won at the NHL level, with the exception of Kreider at this point. Everybody else has not done shit in this league. So that includes Trouba and even, Jack. Who gives a fuck about Jack Johnson? But I mean, there's nobody there who's been there and done that. That's why you lose 1-0 to Boston and 3-2 to Boston. It seems like, oh, it's a 1-goal game. But let me ask you, did you ever feel like the Rangers were in control of either of those games?
No.
Right. There was some time there against Boston where they're dominated, but like it seemed like Boston, and Quinn said it. We said it earlier in the pod. Quinn said they had more men than us. Very revealing. Very revealing. So we'll see how it plays out.
No, it really is exactly that. And it's just disappointing again. The only thing that could save it for me, what's the D'Angelo return? Maybe they can get Vincent Dunn, as we were talking about a few weeks ago, if that's even possible. Get Schneider up here if he starts playing well at the AHL. I know, we don't like him that much, but get Nils Lundqvist over here too. I mean, if you're not going to have Trouba, see what these guys have. Maybe we can wait for Kravtsov later in the year. If Matthew Robertson could come to the NHL somehow, call up Morgan Barron. That's basically what I'm thinking right now, because for the rest of the season, again, we're just going to be like, oh, what did Lafreniere do tonight? What did Kakko do tonight? Is Zibanejad back? And that's it. And there's really nothing else.
Listen, there's complications here, right? Complications, and Lundqvist can't come over until his season is over.
Right.
To me, it's not about necessarily what you get for D'Angelo. That's a next year issue. It's not about who you're bringing in. It's what you're doing with the tools that you have at this point. And this is I just don't see a 10-game winning streak in this team's DNA. I'd love to be proven wrong. It could be a great ride, but they're still going nowhere in the playoffs. I would imagine if they have virtually no chance of making it, but if they do, they're still not going anywhere. So it's all about development. So it's about finding out. You made a good point. Bring up Schneider. Yes, he's 18, 19 years old. Who gives a shit, right? You're not fighting the Washingtons and the Bostons and and maybe not even the goddamn Devils for a playoff spot. So, find out what you got internally. At this point, nothing you get back for D'Angelo is going to be worthwhile. Candidly, I think they pulled the trigger on that way too early. When I hear that Gorgiev threw the first punch in that thing, yes, D'Angelo apparently said something to him.
But to me, it's like your men. Just shrug it off,
Yeah, I think the Rangers were looking for a reason. I think they were fighting. You know what I mean?
Which is bullshit.
I agree. They cut their own balls off in that equation because, listen, we always talked about it. D'Angelo is a big price tag. Let the kid play. Let him get some points, and then he's got some value. Now you're negotiating from the bottom of the barrel. You're getting nothing back from D'Angelo. Everybody knows you've told the world he's not coming back on your team. That was retarded. That made absolutely no sense. Suspend him for 10 days, whatever it may be. It's not like they were creating a roster space for anyone else. It was just dumb. was just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was also a team thing because I heard Kreider had some words to say, and he jumped in the fight too. And I don't know, like if I'm Chris Kreider, I'm not there to be the moral police. Let's just say that. Like whatever you do off the ice, who gives a fuck as long as you're contributing to the team. It's not time for let's see who's good morally in your definition. It's just bullshit to me. I think that's what it boils down to. Who they think he
Well,
is.
they reached out to ex teammates, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in the locker room is going to say their nice thing. They're going to say he's a great teammate. They reached out to Mark Stahl, who was his partner last year. Mark Stahl basically called bullshit on all of that external stuff, right?
Right.
He said because I don't know if you heard about that.
I didn't even see this. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about the controversy where there was some bullshit story out there, which has been proven to be bullshit. That D'Angelo held back Andre Miller's first goal puck.
Yeah, that was totally fake.
Totally fake, right? And they made it out to be some sort of racist thing. And then there was an article, you should read it, Larry Brooks' article about how D'Angelo is really active in the community. You've got parents and other coaches that love this guy, spends 1,000,000 hours with the kids.
He has his own podcast.
Give sticks away and pucks. And then they asked Mark Stahl, he goes, there's not a thing to that whole, racist nonsense. He says it's not. Read the article. Mark Stahl was emphatic, and he's got no reason to lie. He's in Detroit. He doesn't have to say the nice thing in the locker room or the politic thing. It was revealing to me that that D'Angelo punched his ticket with all of the social media stuff, and the Rangers wanted to cut ties, and they're like, "Oh, good, he fucking popped Gorgiev. Now there's our excuse." And by the way, as a GM, Gordon said, I told him he had one more chance and blah, blah, blah. You don't issue that kind of ultimatum with somebody. These aren't children. I mean, there's contracts involved. There's other implications. You don't give ultimatums. What has he done in the past? I mean, maybe we don't know. Maybe he's.
I will say, guy. I went back, looked at an article when he was in the minors and shit. He got suspended 3 or 4 times for being an asshole to the refs.
I'm talking about the Rangers.
Right. Nothing with the Rangers. Right.
Right. I'm talking about the Rangers. And the thing is, you would think that Mark Stahl, when asked recently, would say, you know what, he's a problem in the room, right? But he had nothing but glowing things to say about the kid. And so I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I don't know.
The Rangers I'm looking at it and saying the Rangers are pussies and they're corporate. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And you know what? They're going to suffer as a result of it. Not that D'Angelo is going to win a Norris Trophy, but D'Angelo's a hell of a player.
He was 4th in NHL defenseman in points. It's like suck it up.
Yeah. And on top of that, we knew he was going to be dealt, right, at some point because he's just too high of a price tag, and they got a lot of the young guys they want with a different profile from a player perspective, like grit and size and all that stuff. But he would, if he went out there this year and put up some points, somebody would have gone for him. There's no doubt about it.
What surprises me is that it's Dolan's team, and we know his alignments in that area. Wouldn't you feel like he put a stop, or this just shows he just doesn't give a shit about hockey?
Probably, yeah. Well, he clearly thinks he knows a lot about basketball because he's been meddling in that for 20-something years. So he is a hands-off guy with the hockey stuff. So maybe you're right. Maybe just there's other voices in that room. There's John Davidson. There's obviously Gordon and what have you. But again, just from a practical perspective, take all the emotion out of it. From a practical perspective, they cut their own balls off of this thing because now they're going to get nothing back for basically what amounts to an elite offensive defenseman that would have brought back something of value, probably a 2nd-round pick at some point, or a decent kind of a role player at the NHL level with a 2nd-round pick. Something would have been there if he was given the opportunity to just simply replicate last year on some level.
Yeah, for sure. And before we wrap this up, because now combined with the last one and this, probably like over an hour now, but I'm sure you listened to the Strictly Hockey, and we were talking about the NHL playoff format and our problems with it. Do you agree with me, Steve and Adam there? And by the way, you guys can listen to that here on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good stuff. But we were basically saying, now that we're a quarter way through and we're seeing kind of how teams are playing, we're not going to know what teams are legit and what teams aren't legit really until next year or until the second or third round of the playoffs, because everyone just keeps playing each other every fucking week, and it's getting a little ridiculous. And we feel like they could have definitely designed this a little bit better.
I don't know. I don't know if they could have. Canada's the
That's what I said. Yeah, Canada fucked it all up. Yeah.
Yeah, Canada's the wrench in the works there because of their their travel restrictions. I don't know. I think you're gonna find a test is a test. I don't think you'd learn any more about your respective team if they played out of division, out of conference.
I mean, I do. I mean, think about do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs would be 10-2 outside of their division? I mean, they're playing Ottawa, they're playing Edmonton, who has a terrible goalie. Vancouver's got a bad goaltender. They have no defense. Montreal is a mediocre team at best that's somehow way over 500. Like the Canadian division, especially.
I mean, there are examples of that. So maybe it's a mixed bag. I don't know. I'm looking at it through the biased lens of the Rangers, and I look at this season as the ultimate test for them because I think this is the most difficult division to play in. I think it's the meatiest, the biggest challenge across all the divisions because you go 5 or 6 deep. They're obviously not all going to make the playoffs, but there's 5 or 6 teams in this conference or division, whatever the hell they call it this year, that are real teams. And I would throw the Rangers in that equation as being a real team, at least on the come, with a young core. But I don't know. We'll see. They got to figure it out. They got to figure it out collectively and individually. And I don't think it's a lack of effort. I just think it's these guys kind of are, I don't know, like deers in headlights when it comes to crunch time. And, they struggle with opportunities. They don't get the dirty goals. It's all that stuff, so.
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah. I mean, for the rest of the season now, we're just going to be watching and looking for moments. And I mean, we're going to keep doing these pods, of course, as much as we can, weekly as usual, just talking about the team. But, it's going to get kind of tough because I don't know if there's going to be much good to talk about, again, other than individual players.
I'll say this. Consider yourself incredibly fortunate because old Ranger fans spent decades watching mediocre shit. With no prospects, with no silver lining. This is just frustrating because it's not coming together as quickly as some people would have liked. I will brag again and say I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
So next time I come up with a brilliantly cogent perspective, I expect to be acknowledged. But having said that, though, it's you're fortunate because you might be at the point where you can say, in 5 years, we got through this. It was great to see the progression of Kako and Lafreniere. And by the way, let's face it, the only thing Kako is not doing is putting the puck in the net. He's doing everything else.
I was unfair there. I was just, kind of talking. I mean, I was talking to you last night about how he's using his size. He's guarding the puck well. And I asked you this question last night. Joe Fortunato tweeted out on Twitter. He was like, if Kako can learn to protect the puck like Jaromir Jagr with his ass, then the sky's the limit for this guy.
Yeah, I would agree to a certain extent, but I'll say this, though. What goes unsaid there is Jagr was 245 odd pounds. He was an absolute beast. Jagr could stick when he was young. He could outskate a lot of folks. He could outstick handle them and what. As he got bigger and meatier, he literally put his ass in their face and nobody could move him. And Kako's not that big, so you need another 40 pounds, 50 pounds on Kako. But what Kako is showing is his feet are moving. He's active. He's engaged. You can see his hand skills now, right?
Yeah.
Because you can see all these different things kind of coming together. And then after a while, he's learning things on every shift now because the progression is noticeable, and it's going to come. I'm finally saying, oh wow, he actually should have been a high pick, because we saw none of that through 60 odd games last year. But now you're seeing it, and it gives me hope for Lafreniere, because I hope he's not a Ranger bust by any stretch. I don't think he's going to be, but again, he's a boy playing a man's game right now, and he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, well, now that I'm an old man at almost 21 years old, it's, Lafreniere is a younger guy than me. I'm thinking about myself at 19. Like if I had to play with 28, 30-year-old men, and, I've got Patrice Bergeron and all those guys on the Bruins chasing after me. It's like I was watching those guys on TV as a little kid with my, mom and dad and, siblings or whatever Lafreniere has. So, I mean, people forget that part sometimes.
Yeah, look, I mean, some of these guys came in this league. I mean, I don't know how old Bergeron is, but he's been around forever. He might be in the league close to as long as Lafreniere has been alive.
And I think Chara has.
But Chara definitely. Chara's been around since I think like 1948. So, it's literally, those things go unspoken or unnoticed, right? When you're lining up against somebody who is a grown man, and literally you were ordering from the cafeteria lady like 6 months ago. It's a big transition, Yep. It extends beyond that. It's not just that they're young. It's Lafreniere's living alone, or not really alone, but he's not with his family anymore, right? So he's probably living with one of the older Rangers or with a bunch of rookies, whatever it may be. But the point is, he's figuring out how to be an adult when he's still a kid and he has full-on adult responsibilities.
And the quarantine too. I mean, it's still, the restrictions on his life is a lot too. I mean, obviously they live pretty damn good lives, but it's not the normal life right now.
Right. It's frustrating to watch because as a Ranger fan, they don't seem to ever get those guys that step onto the ice and just kill it from day one. Like that's never freaking happened, with the exception of Brian Leach. He's the only. I've said this before. He's the only rookie in my.
And Igor.
What? Okay, I'll talk about players. There's been a bunch of goalies that have been great from goalies are a different thing. I'm talking about just players. Like Leach is the only one in my 40 plus years of watching this team that had a pedigree, that showed up and was like, oh shit, that's what he's supposed to be. And then some. Everybody else has never lived up to it. So, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, hopefully they will. So that'll do it for this episode of Strictly Rangers. Again, like I said, we're going to keep doing these despite how the team's playing. We're not going to be sore losers over here. So we're going to keep doing these. Strictly Yankees, we uploaded at the beginning of the week. Mark and I will be back doing that soon because Aaron Boone did his presser today, talking about a bunch of stuff. Spring training started today. It was nice to, see some players and stuff like that. The switching of the seasons is always fun. And then we have Strictly Baseball coming tomorrow. Steve and I are going to break down all the moves that we haven't broken down yet, do our top 10 second baseman, maybe even top 10 something else as well, because we're behind a few weeks. We also have an interview with I'm the broadcaster for FAU Baseball. We have an interview with one of the players, Mitch Hardigan. He'll be on our FAU Baseball season preview pod. So you're going to have 2 Strictly Baseballs. You're going to have this coming out. You're going to have Strictly Hockey again next week. We had one 2 days ago. Strictly Sports later this week. CJ's going to come on because him and Steve are beefing. So we're going to have a ton of stuff coming for you guys. So you can listen to us on YouTube now. You can see us if you want to. I mean, who knows who would want to see us, but you can if you want to. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Follow us on Twitter at Strictly Sports P and on Facebook and Instagram at Strictly Sports Productions. And one more thing, by the way, I know I'm saying a lot here. On the YouTube channel, I organized it so you can go under playlists, and we have all the pods organized now instead of just in videos. So it's easier for you guys to find everything. So that'll do it for this one. For my dad and for me, Jacob Brown, we will see you next week.